This is Amazon's unpickable motorcycle disc lock. Now, it's got this clever double key here that both have to rotate at the same time to be able to open it, which makes it practically unpickable. I'm sure, of course, there are people out there who can pick it, but at £16.80, does that make this one of the best motorcycle disc locks you can get? Actually, it took me a while to find the best way to attack that. I was expecting it to shatter across the back. Now, while this had really favourable reviews on Amazon, there was one on there where somebody showed it had been shattered across the back. There's many ways to attack a lock, but on this disc, it was quite hard to get anything in there to get between it to prise it apart. So actually, it's not bad. And that's my point. There are a lot better locks out here, but using any security on a bike does make it much less likely to be stolen. So this lock's got quite a small pin inside it, which lets it go into the little holes in a disc. Now that's important on a scooter because on a motorcycle, obviously you've got big gaps where you can get a decent chunky pin through there to really lock it tight. But on a scooter, you generally can't do that. So disc locks have to have smaller pins. Let's talk about picking first, because there are some notable YouTubers out there who are very good at picking locks, particularly under controlled conditions. Picking isn't an issue in motorcycle security. Unless the lock is utter garbage and it can be opened really easily, it's not a thing. If a lock's going to get attacked, it's going to be with an angle grinder, if they don't mind making any noise, or it's going to be a silent attack like with a set of bolt croppers. These are 42-inch bolt croppers. They're pretty big, not easy to carry around, but you know, most criminals aren't walking the streets, they've got transport. You can carry this on a scooter if you really want to, if you're in a van or anything like that. Not really much of an issue on disc locks, which is what we're mainly talking about here. Obviously there's a limitation with a disc lock. Your bike can still be picked up and put in a van or your scooter. Now there's some pretty scary figures out there about how many bikes apparently get stolen, and what makes it really bad is social media, because everybody wants to share the videos of the angle grinders and people getting threatened. Thing is with that, nobody wants to share the videos of something not getting stolen or somebody failing to steal it. A lot of the time, there is bike theft out there, I'm not trying to deny it, but a lot of the time it's the same stuff getting shared. And when there's a result, nobody wants to share that. For instance, you've probably seen that video and probably still see it sometimes of a Panigale. They're trying to steal it in Soho. They don't actually get away with it, but there's a lot of damage and there's a lot of violence. They're threatening people with angle grinders, and it's pretty nasty. It's pretty shocking. And you look at it and frankly, you look at it and you think, do I want to be part of that? Do I want my bike to be there? Does that put me off biking? What nobody has ever shared is the fact that between them, that gang got 20 years. They were caught, they were tracked, the police put a lot of work into catching them. But that's not an exciting video to share on YouTube. We put a story out there, nobody was really that interested in it. We linked to it again, and you can hear when we spoke to the officers involved in that. And it's not just a single case, it does happen, but I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. Theft is something you need to be aware of. And obviously I work for an insurance company. I looked at the data of thefts over a period of 12 months. Now that was going on for 250,000 customers. And looking at that, of the thefts that happened, based on what people told us they were using, so there's some variables in there, but based on what people told us they were using, if they used even the most basic security, even the most basic disc lock, even a £16.80 disc lock, it reduced their chance of their bike being stolen by more than 3 times. It really does make a difference. If they told us they were using really high security, of the thefts that happen, we're talking about a decent, thick, heavy chain. This is a Pragmatis, there's some really good stuff. I've actually just tested this new Oxford Beast 2, which is a beast. It's another 22mm chain. Look at the size of that lock. Pragmatis, Almax, and now Oxford. There's some very noticeable, and of course Squire. There's some very notable 22mm chains. These things are big, they're hard to attack. Anybody who told us they were using heavy duty security like that, their risk of theft went down by 10 times. And actually, based on data from car insurance companies, that made their motorcycles slightly less likely to be stolen than a typical car. So don't get too despondent about it. I'd recommend something that's kind of multi-use. Look at this Squire Eiger. This works really well as a disc lock, but you can also use it as, to lock up a chain. Now, obviously you wouldn't carry something like this around, it's too big, or that Oxford Beast, But a 13mm chain, yes, you can cut through it, but it takes time. Now, talking about that cutting through, there's a lot of various times out there on YouTube of cutting through chains. Now, I've seen a recent video on what is generally a really good channel where they claim that a professional thief took 4.5 minutes to cut through a 7mm chain. Now, either that's an incredibly inexperienced professional thief or they're very scared of hurting themselves. It's ridiculous. Cutting through a lock is a lot quicker than that. I test locks as part of what I do for this job, and I can tell you it's a lot quicker. We don't publish our lock times because people will see those times and think, well, it's not worth locking it up. But that's absolutely not true. Let's say, for instance, it takes a minute to cut a lock. That might not sound long, but why don't you go out into the street tonight and just shout there, stand there screaming, "I'm a thief, come and arrest me," for a minute solid. It feels like quite a long time then. And I know there's police response times, I know it takes time for these things to happen, but thieves are risk adverse. They want to get the most low-hanging fruit. They want the easy targets. So by locking your bike up, you're making it harder to attack. And especially if you're at home, don't just use one lock if you can, use two, use three. The Met's advice of lock, chain, cover really makes sense. Use a chain, use a disc lock and cover it up. It really does make a massive difference. Remember, we're talking about using just a 16 quid lock. From our data shows that you're 3 times less likely to get your bike stolen. If you can afford to move up to something a bit better, that's £45, but remember Bennett's Rewards members save 20% on all Squire locks, so you can get this pretty cheap. Personally, if you're going to invest in something, get something that will last you a bit longer. Invest in decent security, and it should last, unless it gets attacked, it's going to last you a lifetime. It's a good investment. So we've also got this. If you want to go right up, we've got this Squire Attila. Now this is set up to work right across 2 discs. That's pretty impressive, but it's big and it's expensive. This costs £250, but again, maybe an investment is a bit more fiddly to use than a typical disc lock. And one thing to remember about disc locks is there is one major vulnerability. They'll cut the disc if they want to. If they've got an angle grinder, they'll cut through 2 sides of the disc and they don't care about riding it or pushing it along. A typical motorcycle theft usually involves getting the bike moving and then getting it out of the way and tucked out of the way for a few days while they just check to see if it's got a tracker. If the tracker's hidden directly under the seat, they'll find it because they rip the seat off. But other than that, the bikes are left just to find out if it's got a tracker, because what they don't want to do is take it to their lockup or to a garage or to their flat or whatever and then get caught by the police with a tracker involved. More and more bikes are getting trackers. Trackers do work and they do give you a really good chance of getting your bike back if you're unlucky enough to get it stolen. So let's look at some more locks. Here we've got, this is the Abus Granite Detecto 8077. This is a heavy duty lock. Now when I met the guys from Stolen Motorcycle Recovery London, they were saying this is what they use on their own bikes. These are heavy duty things. This is a big old lock. It's very hard to cut. Obviously it's still got the vulnerability of the disc being able to be cut, and you can't use this with a chain. This is £150, but it does have a really loud alarm in it, which I know a lot of people say that alarms are no use because nobody cares about them, nobody takes any notice of them. It could be the difference between you hearing something happening and not hearing it. I was at where we responded to a theft recently, and there was a guy who was working in the office just above his bike. If he'd had an alarm on it, he'd have heard that something was going on while they'd have been attacking it and trying to push it away. This is the Abus Power disc lock. You can use this with a chain, you can use it on a motorcycle disc as a disc lock on its own, so it's really versatile. Obviously you can take it apart and get it under most seats on most bikes, even an S1000 XR, the original one, which had no space under the seat. It's a really versatile little lock. It's 70 quid, but what I'd really recommend is this Bike Track grab bag and chain. Now this comes with some gloves and a little reminder, but mainly it comes with this chain and this lock. And it comes in a bag that easily rolls up. It's a waterproof bag, rolls up, and you strap it to the back seat of any bike. So if you haven't got any storage, if you haven't got a top box or anything like that, you can carry this bag. There's no excuses not to have this with you. Now this whole package costs £150, but again, Bennett's Rewards members can save 20% on that. I honestly really recommend this. Again, it can be defeated. The chain can be cut, but it takes time. Really good bit of kit that. Now this is a Pragmatis round lock. Now this is one of the toughest disc locks I've ever tried to defeat. It's so hard to break, and it's £39.99. Again, Pragmatis has a deal with Bennett's Rewards. You can save 10% on that. It's a really, really good little lock. And what I love about this is a really compact little disc lock for motorcycles, not for scooters again, but you can also use it to secure a chain. So it's massively versatile. Really, really good value piece of kit this. Hopefully that, it's given you an idea of what's available. use anything you can. When you're going for heavy duty security, we've got a lot of reviews about the toughest chains and locks, and I urge you to check them out. The link's in the description. Obviously things like this, you're not going to carry them, but these are a massive deterrent. If you've got a garage, great. If you're on the street, use 1 or 2 of those. Yes, we're talking about a sizable investment. We're looking at £250 to £300 for the complete set with you know, the Oxford Beast. That's £300 for the chain and lock. Pragmatis, this isn't the 22mm, this is only the 60mm, but you can get a 22mm with the round lock. You can get that for £280 plus 10% saving. These things are secure, and if you invest in them now, you should have your bike for a very long time, and you'll be able to use that security with your next bike and your next bike and your next bike. So honestly, buy the best you can afford and then just use it. Whether it's a £16 disc lock or a £300, £400, £500 set of locks, just use it. It's a better investment than an end can, and once you're using it, then just enjoy owning a bike. Get out there and ride it, lock it up when you're not using it, and just love being a motorcyclist. We'll see you again soon. You know what, I've smashed hell out of that lock and it's done now, and just noticed how badly positioned the Grom is now. That is so annoying, and I can't refilm it because I've smashed it. So I'll just show you what it should have looked like. See, so just watch the video back and kind of pretend that that was there, because it would have been a lot better.